Good morning. We are headed out to my buddy Chris's house this morning to pick up his Polaris Ranger. He picked up a used 2012 800 XP, and the front diff is leaking when you use the four-wheel drive. So we ordered a brand new seal kit from Polaris, and we're going to see if we can get it over to my place, see if we can get that diff taken apart and resealed today, and get it all put back together. Wish us luck.
Searching for greatness in a sea of the dying and shameless, a sea of the aimless. I don't wanna be one of the nameless. I'ma wake up with the mindset that one day I'm gonna make it, and I don't think I'll be fine if I don't break my limitations. Don't try to stop me, I exist to write my own story.
All strapped down and ready to go. Apparently it's use your Tundra to haul a toy day, because there's a nice bass boat behind the white Tundra Crew Max there. All right, so the front differential is leaking on this Ranger, and you can see it's buried way back in there. Super easy to get to. So I think what we got to do is drop the skid plate from underneath, pull the axle shafts out from each side, unbolt the drive shaft, and see if we can get that thing out of there. And we got a whole new seal kit from Polaris. See if we can get it all resealed and put it back in. All right, so off to a great start. What I thought was a removable skid plate under here is actually the chassis. Doesn't look like we can remove this part. You can see the evidence of it leaking here, the gear lube that's all over the chassis. But either way, we got to get started. We need to get those axle shafts out of that diff on both sides. So I guess we'll start there and work our way into it. So after studying things for a minute, it looked like the best option was to just take the front bumper off. So this unit does have a winch on it. So just disconnected those two wires. There's no power going to the wires as long as nobody's inside hitting the button, so you don't have to worry about taping them off or tying them off. But yeah, there's 3 bolts on the bottom here. And then there was a couple going through this member, which was a 10 millimeter bolt on top with a 13 millimeter nut on the bottom. The 3 bolts on the face were 13 millimeter. And then bolting to the bracket hole right there, there was a 15 millimeter bolt and nut combination. So, really not that bad. 7 fasteners plus the wires, and that whole front bumper comes right off. And then look at how much easier that is to access. So now what we got to do is disconnect the lower control arm bolts, which will be much easier here than trying to undo a ball joint. We'll just unbolt these, and then you'll take a little pry bar and pop loose the CV axles from the differential, get them pushed out, and then we should, once those are out of the way, it'll be easier to reach in there and access the drive shaft bolts. So anyway, that's the direction we're going to keep going. It looks like these lower control arm bolts are probably also 15 millimeter, which they are. So let's get to it. All right, so I disconnected the strut from the upper control arm so I could swing that up out of the way. And then by pulling those lower arms out, that allowed me to swing this whole arm assembly way up high. I was able to pull those axle shafts out and get them down and off of the front end. So now we can, we got more access in there. However, I just learned that Polaris in this year, and I don't know what other years, but they used a roll pin to hold the drive shaft to the front differential. So we're gonna have to go from underneath and punch that roll pin out. This is a little hit curve in the road that I didn't see coming. So we will persevere. We're going to get the arms kind of swung and tied up out of the way as much as possible, and we're going to see if we can slide underneath here with that creeper and punch that roll pin out And then once we have it out, then we can remove the 4 bolts that are holding the differential to the chassis. I did go ahead already and follow the wire up that plugs up on the driver's side and disconnected that and disconnected the vent tube. So as soon as we can get this drive shaft undone, should be able to undo those 4 bolts and pull this diff out of here. All right, so I tried it with my regular 1/4 inch punch, which is this one here. Why the camera's acting all weird, but anyway, it's flat on the tip. Nothing super special, just a regular punch. However, apparently what you need is a roll pin specific punch, which has a little knob on the top, which keeps it centered. The problem with mine not being perfectly centered each time is it's moving around and preventing me from getting a good even blow across the roll pin to push it through. So story is you have to have this roll pin punch, they claim. So I'm gonna try that. And I'll be darned, with the right tool, a couple quick blows with the hammer, and made that job quick and easy. So now we'll pull those bolts out that are mounting the diff to the frame, and then we'll just get it slipped out of there. All right, so here you can see where that thing's been leaking all around. It's even got a drip hanging off the bottom of it right now. So let's, we're gonna take this thing, take this end apart, and see if we can get it resealed up here. So it looks like we got 3 10mm. We'll slip the cover off and see what's next. Okay, pulling that off, it's actually plastic. It's got an O-ring on it that appears to set into that groove around the edge. That groove had a bunch of dirt and crud in it, so I'm guessing maybe from getting it stuck or buried in mud or something, I don't know. But also notice the shaft has a little bit of rust pitting on it, and it's got like that ridge I can just catch with my fingernail, which is not good against a rubber seal. So I am going to take some ultra fine emery cloth, and we're gonna try and polish that, and then put our new seals on and see if that'll take care of it. So I got my ultra fine emery cloth here, and I'm just putting my finger against the edge of the shaft, and I've been spinning it by hand, but it's going kind of slow, so I just rigged up an Allen wrench in my drill just to kind of help me, and hopefully it works kind of. All right, got that all cleaned up. You can just barely see a hint of that line, but you definitely can't feel it anymore. So hopefully that's good enough. Now we'll go grab our new seals. We'll get those swapped out. See if we can put this thing back together. So I just kind of blew this thing all off. The rubber O-ring obviously just slipped down, and then the seal here, I was able to just get under with a flat screwdriver and pry upward a little bit on the outer edge. So we're gonna get that cleaned up, and we'll put a little extra grease on there, and we'll slide it all back together with new seals. So it is important to note that this new seal and the old seal are rectangular in shape or square in shape. It's not an O-ring. So make sure that you have that set nice and square all the way around, and that it's not twisted, or else you'll have a leak. So, and then I did put a little extra grease on that needle bearing and on the inside of the seal, so that as it slips on here, it won't chafe or catch or anything like that. So let's get it slid on there and bolt it back into place. All right, so there's never gonna be an easier time to change the fluid in this differential than right now. So I got a couple of spacers which hold it level, just like it would be when it's in the vehicle. We're gonna go ahead, I pulled the fill plug, we're gonna drain it out. Got some fresh demand dry fluid here we're gonna put back in it, because yeah, it'll never be easier than right now. All right, now we got it all topped off. So it gets filled through this plug. It takes just a touch under 8 ounces, and you basically fill it until it's just about to come out the threads. And you put the plug back in, and that's it. So yeah, the new fluid is almost a clear, definitely much lighter color than what came out of it. So yeah, also while I was out and about, I picked up some bolts. I was reading online, guys, to make this more serviceable, are replacing that roll pin with just a bolt and a lock nut, which I'm going to do, just in case. I mean, if this thing's ever got to be serviced again, this is much more serviceable, especially on the trail, than roll pin is. So anyway, let's get to putting it back together. And boom, we're back together. So we'll take her for a little ride around the yard, kick it into 4, make sure we sling some of that fluid around, double check and make sure we're still dry underneath, and we'll be good to go. If we are, we can load it up on the trailer and deliver it back to its owner. Alright, took a couple of quick laps around the yard and double checked it. Everything's nice and clean and dry, just like it's supposed to be. Time to load this thing up and get it back to its rightful owner.
Bye-bye, little Ranger.